Welcome everyone. In this section, we're talking about one command and only one command, git rebase. So this is a command we haven't talked about at all. I don't even know if I've mentioned it so far in the course. And that's because it's another one of these commands that you don't have to use. These days, a lot of people do use it. But as I'll talk about in the next video, when I first learned Git, I was actually told to avoid rebasing if possible. And there's reasons for that I'm going to go into. So without spoiling everything, or not spoiling, but without just trying to explain it all now, I'll just say that I don't plan on marking anything as critical, but I'm going to put everything in important. It's worth knowing about. And increasingly, rebasing is part of workflows or companies' workflows on engineering teams. So you probably want to know about it, even if you won't end up using it day to day. Some people do, definitely. So we want to start by understanding the difference between two things that are similar, rebasing and merging, two different ways of integrating changes from different branches. And then I'll show you how to use git rebase, and then I'll talk about when not to rebase. That is a very important thing to understand, something called the golden rule of rebasing. But that's really all we cover in this section. We're going to see a bit more of the rebase command in the next section. It does something different, or there's a second way we can use it. But in this section, we're focusing on using rebase to combine branches. All right, let's talk about rebase. I want to start this section on rebasing by telling you a little bit about my own personal history with rebasing. It's a command, git rebase is the command, that there's a bit of a divide over in the Git community. Some people use this command all the time. Some companies ask that their developers use rebase all the time. Others avoid it like the plague. And when I first started, when I first learned Git, I was actually told by the person I was learning from to try to avoid rebasing ever. Don't worry about it. It can really screw things up for you and for other people on your team. It's not for beginners. And some of that is true for sure. But it was kind of, a scary command for me. And I avoided it for quite a long time, for many years. And I got by just fine with Git. I didn't really run into many issues. Maybe there was once or twice I had to use it, but I would just Google, what I needed to do and find something on Stack Overflow. It just wasn't something I needed to do frequently. Anyway, one day I was teaching a boot camp a couple years ago, and a student asked me about rebase in front of the rest of the class, and I was not all that prepared to give him a good response. So I went home, did more research, came back, gave a lecture the next day. Anyway, doesn't really matter, but long story short, I use rebase all the time now. It can be very useful, but you have to know when not to use it. There's a golden rule of rebasing, and we will focus on that in this section. So there's a divide within the community because rebasing is an alternative to merging. There's two different things really that people do with rebasing. And the first one is you can use git rebase instead of git merge. So some people like to do that, and they'll use git rebase, or some companies will ask their developers to use git rebase instead of merging, but other people get by just fine with git merge and they avoid git rebase. So there's two big workflows for combining branches. One is rebasing and one is merging. So we'll talk about that starting in the next video. And then the second use case for rebase is to clean up your own commits, clean up your Git history. And we'll talk about that too towards the end. All right, so you can get by with just merging things as we have been doing. Rebase is not, in my opinion, one of the essential commands that you just have to know. As I said, I used Git for quite a while without really rebasing all that much, but it's definitely worth knowing about. And these days, I think it's gaining in popularity, or at least equal to the Git merge crowd. Okay, so let's begin. So as I mentioned, there are two main things that we can do with the git rebase command. We're going to focus on the first of those things, using it as an alternative to the git merge command. So both commands, git merge, git rebase, help us combine changes from two branches. Okay, so I'm going to start by identifying I guess you could call it the problem with merging, or something that rebasing addresses that merging does not. So imagine that I'm working on a project with, let's say, 10 different developers. I'm at work and we're working on some big code base together, 10 of us. Okay, So we have our master branch, and there's like a million commits before it that you can't see. Well, maybe a couple thousand commits. Then it's my turn. We have stand up. It's my turn to work on a new feature this morning. Well, everyone works on a new feature, but it's time for me to start a new feature. So I make a new feature branch. We'll just call it feature. And I do some work on that feature branch, right? So there's a new commit or two, or maybe more. Continue doing more work. We end up with more commits on my branch. But in the meantime, maybe a couple hours pass, maybe it's lunch, and one of my other coworkers finished their task, their bug fix or their new feature or whatever, and that code is merged into master. Now, probably they make a pull request or there's some mechanism in between, but the end result is that their changes are merged into master. So I probably want that new work on my feature branch, right? Maybe there's a bug fix in there or something. I don't want to diverge from the master branch for a super long time without getting those new changes. So how do I get that new commit? Hopefully this is nothing new. How do I get that new work from the master branch onto my feature branch? Well, I merge, right? So this cannot be performed as a fast forward merge. We end up with a merge commit. That's what I'm highlighting. That purple background with a green or whatever, cyan color, that's supposed to indicate a merge commit. So there's a merge commit on my branch. And then I keep doing some more work, right? And then what do you know? As I'm doing more work the next day on my feature branch, there's more new work added to the master branch. Another coworker pushes up some changes. Maybe it's even more than one. Maybe it happens 5 or 6 times in a day, depending on what they're fixing or working on. So I need to get those commits onto my feature branch, or I need to know about them. So I do the same thing. I merge, and yet again, I have a new merge commit, right? So as I continue to work, imagine that instead of 5 commits here or something, I have a whole bunch of commits on my branch, my feature branch. Maybe I'm working on it over the course of weeks, not just days. And the rest of the team is very active. So we have a very active master branch, lots of changes happening in the meantime. So I need to continuously merge those in, and I end up with all these merge commits. So my entire feature branch might have dozens of merge commits that don't actually say anything about what I'm working on. They have nothing to do with my actual code or with my commits. They just have to be there because I merged, right? We don't have a way around that. So again, try and visualize this on a much larger scale. So instead of just the small number of commits I can fit on this one slide in a tiny diagram, imagine that I'm merging pretty frequently just to get those changes from master, whatever my coworkers are doing. And if it's a very, very active project, that could be a lot of merging onto each feature branch. And my coworkers all have to do that too, right? I'm not the only one. They're all working on features. And if everyone else has merged changes into master, they need to get those changes onto their feature branches. So everyone's feature branches might be riddled with a bunch of merge commits. And then when they merge those back into master, there's just a bunch of useless merge commits as part of the history. I shouldn't say useless, but they're not informative, right? The commits might be something like fix X bug, add new feature, remove X file, and then merge commit, merge blah branch, right? That's just sprinkled in there. And that makes our history more annoying, muddier, less clean. So that is something that rebasing can help us with. So I'm going to show an example repo. We'll set it up in the next video, but I'll just show you on slides for now. If we rebase instead, so rebasing is just another way of combining branches instead of merging. What happens when we rebase is that we actually rewrite history, and this is why it's sometimes problematic. We are rewriting history. We're creating new commits, or we have Git create new commits for us based upon the original feature branch commits. So here's the diagram, the same diagram from before up top. Here's my feature branch. This is what happens when I merge in all those changes right from the master branch, and I get multiple merge commits. But if I use rebase, so I'm going to rebase the feature branch onto the master branch. Think of the term rebase as I was going to say rebase. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. We are coming up with a new base for our feature branch. So what we end up with is this linear structure. We will go into detail again on how this all works, and I'll demo it. But notice a linear structure, we have the master branch, and then we have our feature commits from that feature branch on top of the master branch, added to the tip of that master branch. So we don't have these merge commits, right? We have the same original, like the 3 commits I did on the feature branch, the 4 commits from the master branch, but they've actually been rewritten. So this doesn't indicate the time where things were made, where commits were created. Each commit actually has a date, so that is preserved. But commits are moved around in order to give us this new structure. So all that feature branch work I have done, all those commits, begin at the tip of the master branch. So I don't have these merge commits anymore, but the end result is that whatever I'm working on here contains all of the commits from master and from feature, just like it does right here. It's just a different mechanism. And here's a similar example where instead of having these merge commits, I just wait. So I have my feature branch, and then I want to get the changes from master, combine them with feature, those new commits. I can rebase in order to end up with this structure. My feature branch has a new base at the tip of the master branch. So it begins where master ends. And we end up with this nice structure, linear. It's cleaner and it's more focused, right? The history here, someone can see very quickly, these are the commits that had to do with my branch and the changes I made, versus here, those commits are still there, but there's these merge commits that are in the way. So if we multiply that by 10 people working on feature branches, merging all the time, that's a lot of merge commits. But if they all rebase in the correct way, it's a lot easier to see what's going on with their individual branch history. All right, so I'm going to demo this in the next couple of videos. So in this video, I'm going to demonstrate this merging workflow we've already seen, and then we'll set things up so that we can then rebase and see a difference. Otherwise, if I just show you rebasing on its own, it's a little bit harder to see how it compares. All right, so I'm going to make a new, I already made a folder called Rebase Demo. I'm going to keep this extremely simple in terms of what my commits are and the history I create. Currently, no Git repo, so I'm going to init. And I'll just work on the default master branch for now. And let's say that we're working on some project called, I don't know, website. Website is going to be a text file just to keep things simple. All right, so I'll add that file. I will commit, just initial commit, just like that, nice and simple. All right, so we have our website file open. I'm not going to be typing code. I'm just going to pretend we'll do something like navbar added. That's the equivalent of somebody actually adding a navbar in. All right, so now I'm going to commit that, just -am navbar. How about add navbar? Okay, so now I'm going to switch over to a feature branch. We'll imagine that I'm working on this feature branch. Whatever the feature is, I'm just going to call it feat, just like that. F-E-A-T. So I'm on this branch. I'm going to be working in a separate file just to minimize conflicts. I'll also talk about what happens if we do have conflicts when we rebase. Anyway, what should my file be? Let's just call it feature.txt. All right, so I'm going to make this incredibly basic. As I said, I'm going to add feature just to start, git commit -m, and begin feature, begin feature. Okay, and then I'll do one other change in the feature. I think my changes in here are just going to be numbers, right? So 1, and then I'll go back, git commit -am, work on feature. Okay, so I'm now going to switch back to master, git switch master. There's no feature file and no feature branch, right? We're on master. Let's say that somebody adds the footer. So this is new work someone has done in the meantime, right? So I'm working on my feature branch. I have some commits. Then changes are merged into master that I don't have on feature. So that's what I'm doing right now. The footer was added. So I will do a git commit -am footer, add footer. Okay. So here's what things look like in Git Kraken currently. So we have our master branch, and then we have the feature branch. If I want to keep working on my feature branch, but I want the latest work from master, we'll pretend it's coming from, somebody else did this work, not just me. I want that on my feature branch. I could do a merge on feature, so merge master into feature. And that's what I'm going to begin with, exactly what I did here, where we end up with a merge commit on feature. So I'm going to do that. So I'm on master right now, right? I'm just going to take a look at my log. We have 3 commits on master, but if I switch back to feat, I want to merge in the changes from master. So git merge master. I'm on the feature branch. So again, see what it looks like right now, right? I've diverged. There's new work on master. I want that on my feature branch. I'm not done with the feature, but I want the latest work from master. So it prompts me in my editor here, or if you don't have your editor configured, it'll prompt you here in your terminal with whatever your default editor is. I'm going to just close this. It's just a merge commit. So now we have this merge commit, right? Right there, merge branch master into feat. You can see what it looks like here. We have this merge commit right there. Okay, that's not too bad, I guess. So I keep working on my feature. Let's say I get to 2, whatever 2 is. That is more work on my feature. So I'm trying to just keep this super simple. All right, more work on feature. Okay, and then in the meantime, let's say that took me like half a day. Go back to master and we'll pretend we're other people. On master, a coworker finished some feature they're working on, login form added. Right, so I will add that just to pretend I'm one of them, or I'll just do a commit am form add login form. And the feature I'm working on, actually, it would be really useful if I had that login form on that feature branch. So once again, I could do the same thing, right? I could go onto the feature branch and merge master into feature. So I'm going to do that because now there's a commit that I don't have. So I go back to feature, git switch, and then I'm going to do just git status, make sure I don't have any uncommitted stuff, git merge master. So here's what it looks like now. Here's my commit on feature that does not exist on master. Here's the commit on master, the new work, the login form. I want to merge that in to my feature branch. So I'm still not touching, I'm not changing master. Well, I am for this demo, but my feature branch is not merged into master at any point. I'm still just working on feature. So once again, it generates a new merge commit. And now my history here, right? It doesn't look super bad because it's small. There's not a lot of merge commits, but there's another merge commit on my feature branch. And if I look at my history, git log, right? I have all this work, but then I have merge branch, and then some more work, and then merge branch again. So the history of my one feature branch that I'm working on is already cluttered. And I just have 2 merge commits, but as I do more work on this one feature, and as the master branch continues to change, and there are more and more commits added onto it, I end up with a lot of merge commits if I want to stay up to date, if I want my feature branch to have the latest work from master. So we end up with this sort of scenario, where my feature branch constantly has merge commits, the history is cluttered. It's muddied, it's uglier, it's harder to follow. Now, this isn't a huge deal, right? It's not the end of the world, but on a really large project with lots and lots of commits, it can be way nicer if you have a clean commit history or a clean project history where the commits are grouped together in a logical way, and you minimize the number of those merge commits. So that is what rebasing helps us do. In the next video, I'll actually use the commands that we talked about briefly to show you how to rebase so that we don't end up with these merge commits, but instead we end up with this nice linear history by rewriting it. So that's coming up. All right, so we finally get to try the rebase command. I'm going to do exactly what I'm showing you in this diagram. Currently, I have my feat branch feature, whatever that feature is, where I have twice merged in changes from master. So my master branch still doesn't have any of the feature stuff. That's fine. I don't want to directly merge anything into master right now. Instead, I'm just concerned about getting the changes from my coworkers that are constantly adding to master, even if it's not constant. Let's just say frequently in a given week, updating master. Pull requests are merged in. I need that work on my feature branch, so I merge from master into feature, but that gives me merge commits. So instead, I'm going to rebase. And again, when we use the git rebase command, we are rewriting history. So this is the actual history of our commits. But when I rebase, things get switched around a bit. In fact, we get new commits generated. So instead of creating merge commits for us, when we use git rebase, it rewrites history. It creates brand new commits for each of the original feature branch commits. So the workflow here looks like this. I want to be on my feature branch, and then I run git rebase master. So this is not going to screw up or change the master branch. Instead, it's going to rewrite history by taking my feature branch commits, creating new ones that are based on the originals, and putting them all at the tip of the master branch, or starting them at the tip of the master branch, rebasing them at the tip of this master. So all that work, however many commits I have on my feature branch, that work is not going to be destroyed or anything like that, but the commits are going to be recreated, and they're going to be added to the tip of my master branch. So we end up with a linear structure. We still have two branches, of course, because a branch is just a pointer, right? With just a reference. But now we don't have these merge commits where if we don't really need to go into it now, but each one of these merge commits has two parents. Here, every commit has a single parent, except I guess the first commit on the master branch. So let me demonstrate this. As we saw, we already have merge commits, so we can rebase now. I'm showing you sort of merging first and then rebasing, but you can actually rebase instead of merging. I'll show that. So here's our structure right now. I'll zoom in as much as I can in post-production. So we have master branch here on the right, feature here, and we have these merge commits. So instead of this structure, I'm going to rebase. And I guess what I'll start with is I'll show you these commit hashes. Maybe I'll take a screenshot of them. Okay, now I'm going to run this command. So I'm on the feature branch. Let's say I make sure I get the latest changes on the master branch. I pull down from GitHub on master. I've got the latest that whatever coworkers have merged their code in. Now I'm going to call git rebase, if I can type it, master. And I'm calling this from my feature branch. Okay, so take a look at this output. Rewinding ahead to replay your work on top of it, so on top of master. And then it applies my commits, my 3 commits. So let's see what that looks like. So I'll zoom in here. Hopefully I do follow through and zoom in post-production. And our structure has changed pretty radically. So all of my work is still here. We still have those 3 commits I made on feature. We just don't have those 2 merge commits. So now things are linear. We still have 2 branches, of course, but we've created new commits, or Git has created new commits for us based upon the original commits on the feature branch. So if I type git log now, first I'll just show you. Still 2 branches, master is unchanged. But now, if I type git log, I'll do 1 line. We have fewer commits because we don't have those merge commits, and the commit hashes have changed because we actually end up with new commits. So the original commits on the master branch are unchanged. 2BE, 2BE, 34F, 34F, right? What else is on master? Add footer, E19, E19. Anyway, the 3 commits that I made on the feature branch, however, like begin feature, if we take a look at it on the original screenshot I took, 889, very different. It's a completely new commit, 907. So I rewrote history, I made new commits. The work is still there, right? I still have those commits, the commit messages, and actually the dates are still in there, the metadata, but they are in fact new commits. It's not just like an update to a commit, it is new history. So what this does though, is hopefully you can see it cleans up my history for this feature branch significantly. And it makes it easier to see, what I've done, like the actual work on this branch, because it's all here now. It's not mixed in with that work from master, even though the code is all there together. But the commits are all together. They're condensed down so I can see, oh, this is what I've done, right? Those are the commits I've made on this branch versus originally, let me pull that screenshot up again. If we look here, we've got this from the master branch, and then this on the master branch, feature, master. This is on feature, it's a merge commit, feature, master, feature, versus here, it's just master, 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 those 4, and then feature, feature, feature. Master branch, master branch, master branch, master branch, and then feature, feature, feature. Okay, so that is our first example of using Rebase. We've done exactly what these diagrams showed, but I also want to show that we can just use Rebase instead of merging. For example, if we quickly make another change on the master branch, So we're on the master branch. What else is added? Login form. How about image gallery added? I don't know. Really, this is probably not how you would break up development. But anyway, let's just do something obvious like that. Image gallery added. So I'm going to do a commit on the master branch. Add image gallery. So that's something a coworker does. I switch back to feature. I don't have that, right? So now we've diverged again. We don't have this linear structure. And if I want that work that I just got pulled down from GitHub, let's say, that a coworker did, I want that on my feature branch that I'm currently developing. I want to stay up to date. Instead of merging, I'm now going to rebase. And the end result will be what I just showed you in the previous example, where we rebase the feature branch on top of master. So instead of merging and having a merge commit here on the feature branch, our 3 feature branch commits are just moved on top of that last master branch commit. So we rebase it on the tip of the master branch. Okay, so I don't have this commit on my feature branch about, what was it again? Image gallery. I don't have that on feature branch, but I'm going to switch to it. I'm currently on it, so make sure of that. We're on feature. Oh, and if I wanted just to check, what's the difference, right? I can do git diff feat master and quickly see I don't have this image gallery added. I mean, we know that, but if there was more work, I would see there's a bigger diff between feature and master, or vice versa. So I'm going to rebase, git rebase master. I'm on the feature branch. Okay, so this is the current structure, what we see. And git rebase master, here we go. Rewinds head to replay our work. And this is what we end up with. So even though there was just one new commit on master, right, this add image gallery commit, all of my commits on feature were recreated. They're new commits. And I didn't take a screenshot of the commit hashes, but these are different from what they were just a moment ago because these are new commits based on the original commits. And so now we're back to this linear structure, right? So I can do this instead of merging. I don't need to merge. I can only rebase. Or I guess, as I showed you originally, you can merge, and then at the end say, okay, I'm going to rebase now before I share this with people. I don't want them to see all my merge commits. It really depends on the workflow, and we'll talk more about the pros and cons, and especially about the golden rule of rebasing, which is when not to rebase. So hopefully this is becoming a little bit clearer. When we rebase a branch, we are basing that branch on the tip of another branch. So if we switch to whatever branch, our feature branch, we rebase onto master. That's the part that sometimes I see students get confused about. They think git rebase master means you're actually rebasing the master branch, but in fact, we are rebasing onto master in this case. So our feature branch commits are recreated, new history is made, and it all begins at the tip of the master branch. And we end up with this nice linear structure. In this video, we'll quickly talk about why you might want to rebase. We've kind of already touched on it, but also, most importantly, when you should not rebase, what the golden rule is of rebasing. So why rebase instead of merge? Imagine this repo is way more cluttered. Well, not cluttered, but there's a lot more history, hundreds of commits, and a lot of simultaneous work going on. We can see, with the way I've structured this, very clearly what work I did on the feature branch. It's these 3 commits right here because we rebased. So it doesn't matter if a whole bunch of, let's say there's 10 or 50 or 100 other commits from the master branch, and they happen simultaneously over the course of development that I was working on feature. Assuming that I get those changes, I pull them down to master and I rebase onto the master branch, my feature branch commits are all located together at the tip. This makes it easier for someone to review my commits and take a look at the code base and try and read what's going on. In open source projects with thousands of contributors and tons of work all the time, this makes it easier for some random person to go read the history, go try and understand what did this feature do, right? I don't have to see like a million merge commits as part of the commit history. The end result is the same. I guess I didn't really actually show you the code here, but we still end up with the code coming from the master branch mixed in with a feature branch. So we have image gallery added. It's just the actual history that is updated. So because we are updating the history, because Rebase rewrites commits, there's a big no-no, a big thing you should be aware of. You do not ever want to rebase commits that other people already have. So you don't want to rebase if you've pushed up some branch to GitHub or somewhere else and your collaborators have that work on their machine, because then they have those commits, and then all of a sudden you rebase and you rewrite those commits, you rewrite history. That is a nightmare. Well, it's not a nightmare, but it can be really, really annoying to reconcile when your collaborators have different histories. You have commits that just don't even exist in their history, and they have commits that don't exist in yours, and it's all in the past. That can be very tricky. So again, the rule, never rebase commits that you've shared with others. So what this means is you want to be rebasing commits that you have on your machine and other people don't. So your feature branches that you're working on, you don't want to rebase the master branch because people presumably have that master branch or the main branch. They have commits that you have. So if you rewrite those commits and they're totally new, that's a problem when you try and push up. So you don't want to do that. At least that's the general principle. So you work on a feature branch, whatever you're doing in there, fixing a bug, adding a new feature, whatever it is, you can rebase your work from that branch onto the master branch or onto another branch, right? You're not changing the master branch. You don't change the branch that you are rebasing onto, right? We didn't change the master branch here. We only changed my commits on the feature branch. So that's important. The branch that you are on when you call rebase is the one that is rebased, as we talked about. Let's go back here. Here I'm on the feature branch. I rebase onto master. That's fine. I'm not messing up master. I'm not changing the history on master. I'm only changing the history on my feature branch. I'm changing those commits. So that's okay. You just want to avoid rebasing commits, rewriting history that other people have. So once you've pushed that feature branch up, if somebody has pulled that down, if they have that history, if they're working on it, you don't want to rebase. At least that's a general rule I recommend. Again, there are ways of fixing this, but it's not fun. All right, so that is kind of why a lot of people shy away from rebase, or why I was told not to use it, because you can get yourself in situations that are hairy. If you're collaborating with people, you're rewriting history, and if you don't know how to properly use rebase, that can be a big problem. So make sure you know what you're doing. And if you're working at a company, like, they're going to make it very clear to you what the workflow is, and if they expect you to rebase everything or to never rebase and only merge, or rebase in X situations. It's just part of learning, the Git workflow at a particular company. But on your own, if you're working on your own projects, just you, then you can rebase all the time, of course. But also, even if you're just on a small team, rebase all the time. Just make sure you know what you are rebasing, and don't rebase shared history, any commits people already have. Only rebase stuff that is yours and yours alone. Rebase it, and then you can push it up, right? You get this nice clean history. You don't have all those merge commits. Do that, and then you can share that. So I'll show another example of this next with some conflicts if you want to see how that works. It's the same principle, roughly, as resolving merge conflicts when you're merging, but I'll demo it anyway. When we rebase, we can end up with conflicts just like when we merge. We're combining history, we're combining branches together. That can lead to a merge conflict. So I'll just quickly demo that. We are on the feature branch. Let's change something on our website file. How about, I don't know, let's change this line that says footer added. Let's change it to say, what should we do? I don't know. How about this? Instead of login form, we do log out form added. I don't know why you need a form to log out, but sure. And then instead of navbar added, let's do top navbar added. Okay, not very exciting, but there we are. So I'm going to add that and commit. And let's just go, let's say like update website on feature branch. I'm just putting on feet there so you can see it in the message. You normally don't say what branch you're working on in a commit message, but I'm just doing that here so that we can see it. Now I'm going to switch to master. All right, and I'll do some more work on one of these lines. So instead of saying top navbar, I'll say, I don't know, main navbar. And instead of log out, I'll do, what should we say here? Sign up form? How about that? Sign up form added. So we should have some conflicts, right? And then we could even add something else. Well, let's start with that. Git commit -am, or on the master branch. Update copy on master. Okay, so now I'm going to switch back to my feature branch. Let's do a tiny bit more work. 3, git commit -am, right? More work on feet. All right, so here's what our history looks like in Git Kraken. So we have a divergence, if that's the right way of saying that. We have our feature branch, which has some work that's not a master, of course, quite a lot of work. But then master has new work. We'll pretend we pulled that down. We didn't just type that ourselves because that would be very stupid, what I just showed you in the real world. But whatever that work is, it's coming from GitHub. We pull it down, it's a new feature our collaborators added in. I want that on feature. So I'm on the feature branch. I will rebase instead of merge, git rebase, and then master. And uh-oh, look at this output. Slightly different, right? So it recreates all of our commits from the feature branch, rebasing them on the master branch. But then it gets to this. Conflict, merge conflict in website.txt, failed to merge in changes. And if we look at our history, look at that. It is a partial rebase. If you can see, I'll zoom in. So we have the feature branch, which is here, and it started to recreate our commit. So we have begin feature, but we also have begin feature. We have work on feature, work on feature. We have more work on feature, more work on feature. So the rebase is not done. So I have a couple of choices. One, I can just abort the whole thing. It tells me exactly what to do. Here we are. To abort and get back to the state before, run git rebase -- abort. But basically, we are part of the way through rebasing. So it made new commits, some new commits, but it hit a conflict. So we need to resolve that. So it tells us, in this case, it's just one file, website.txt. I'll go in there, and I have to decide what to keep, what not to keep, just like I would with any conflict, a regular old merge conflict. So what should I do here? Let's say I want top navbar, but I want sign up form. So I can just, manually do this. I'll get rid of that. I don't want main navbar. I want top navbar. So I can just manually reconfigure. I'm kind of just combining from two branches. I could have just gone with one or the other, of course, and often that's what you do. But in this case, I'm going to manually just combine them. So footer, and then I want sign up form. Okay? And then image gallery as well. All right, so that's kind of a messy way of resolving it, but that is the new version of this file that I want, okay? So now it tells me, hopefully you can see this, what I need to do is mark them as resolved by adding them. So git add the file, and then run git rebase -- continue. Make this larger. Okay, so if I type git status, it tells me rebase in progress. Here's the commit that it's on. It tells me exactly where it is in this rebasing. So I'm going to add website because I fixed the conflict in there. Okay, but I'm not going to commit. I'm going to run git rebase -- continue. So this is where you want to just pay attention to the output, right? We just follow the instructions. It says all conflicts fixed. Now run this. Or I can abort the entire rebase using -- abort if I just want to bail on it. Okay, so right now, rebase is paused, but I just continued it. Looks good. Let's type git status. All right, working tree clean. And now we successfully completed the rebase. We resolved the conflicts, and the end result is that the changes from master and feature are all combined. They're integrated, so I have exactly what I wanted, right? I have this file resolved the way it is, and the entire feature branch, all that history was rewritten on top of the master branch, rebased on top of the tip of the master branch. Alrighty, so we still can have conflicts. We're still just combining commits, or combining branches rather, and that can lead to conflicts. The way you resolve them is the same. You go into the files, it tells you exactly where the conflict is, you pick what you want, incoming, original change, or a hybrid of them like we did, then you add, you stage it, and then you follow the instructions. In our case, we don't want to merge commit, so we don't do git commit. When we rebase, we did git rebase -- continue. All right.